Today I'm going to show you how to paint TTCombat Terrain Cyber Guns, also known as Necron Sentry Pylons.
Necrons!
Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, in today's Necron video I'm going to show you how to paint a TTCombat Cyber Gun. Now, I've already built and reviewed this product on the channel, and I've made a how to build video as well. If you haven't seen them yet, I'll link you up to the playlist just there. In that playlist there's also a video about my Necron list with 9 of these little babies. But today we're going to have a look at painting them. So let's go table down and get them painted. Okay, so here is our cyber gun ready for painting. Now the first thing that we have to do is prime it. I'm going to spray prime mine with black. I'm going to use a spray can. Now you can use any spray can that you would normally use to prime your plastic or metal or resin miniatures. I would suggest a cheap version would be fine. After all, you're only priming MDF and cardboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go outside, I'm going to prime mine, and then I'll be back to paint it. Before that though, if you would like to keep up to date with the wonders of Warhammer 40k, not miss an upload, then please give me a sub and hit the bell button so you don't miss a video. Okay, so that's now all blacked in, so we can start painting. Now I'm going to paint mine in a metallic colour. I'm not going to just paint metallic straight on there. I'm actually going to use a dry brush technique. I find that this gives me a nice metal look, especially when we're painting cardboard or MDF. So the colour I'm going to use first is Ironbreaker, and this is going to be almost like a base coat dry brush. So I've got that colour on my wet palette just there, and I'm going to get myself this, which is basically an old pair of jeans just cut up, it's quite well used, and a piece of tissue. So what I like to do is get my brush, and the brush we're going to use is this one. This is a large dry brush. Effectively what you need is a brush with nice soft bristles. And the idea is to take some paint from a wet palette, pop it onto here, just dry off some of the surplus, fully dry it off on this piece, ready to put onto the model. And the idea is that we can then just take some paint from here so we can work our way towards a dry brush. So let's do that. So first of all, dip it into the wet one, wipe it onto our jeans, and then wipe it fully off onto the cloth. And then what we need to do is just lightly dry brush this. Now you can go in any direction that you like, but it's probably best to pick the same direction. So if you start off going up and down like I have, continue that, for example, right the way round this arc rather than changing directions. Now you're not looking to fully coat this in a metal colour. You're effectively just doing, like I said, almost like a base coat. So you're just laying down a metal colour. Now, just going to get some more paint on there. I'm going to try and get slightly thicker silver colour. So I'm just going to go over that again. There you go. That's about what we're looking for. I'm literally going to do that over the whole of this model. So I'm going to continue with this, and then I will be back for the next stage. Okay, so that is that layer done. Now you can see it looks fairly patchy, but that's okay. In actual fact, that's going to help with the desired metal look once we've finished. So once we've done that, the next stage is to go over that colour with lead voucher. So I'm using Games Workshop colours here, of course. In actual fact, you can use any metal colours that you wish, but you will need to do 2 coats of dry brush regardless. Now ideally you don't want to wash out your brush in between painting these if you're doing it in one sitting. Of course, if you're going to paint the next coat a few hours later or the next day, then you can wash your brush out. But if you wash your brush out, it will ruin the dry brush effect, unless of course you've got 2 brushes. So we've got that colour now in our wet palette. So once again, we're going to put some onto our dry brush, go dry brush it off, and we are going to repeat exactly what we've just done, and this time we'll get a slightly more even but still a weathered sort of mottled look of metal. Now at this stage you can go in all different directions because you want to fill in that metal look. So just build up the colour now. It's best to do this lightly, but do 2 sort of light coats rather than going in with a thick coat. Ideally you don't want it to look like a solid metal colour. You want to leave that sort of patchy look there. So what I'm going to do is continue to do that all over this thing, and then we'll be back with the next stage. Okay, so there you go, that's the second coat done. I'm really happy with the effect. We've got this nice weathered old metal look. Now you could, if you wanted to, as an alternative to that dry brushing, is you could either spray this with a silver, or you could just block in the silver colour and then maybe go over with a wash afterwards. It's entirely up to you. I find this is A, the easiest, and B, I like the effects that I get from it. However, I am going to use a wash. I'm going to use a wash in these big areas here between the plates, and that will give us a new dimension to the metal. So we're going to use Nuln Oil. I'm just going to use the standard one, not the gloss one. So I'm going to shake that up and we're going to get some shade onto the model. Okay, so before we use this shade, we're going to put some blue tack on our board, and we're going to blue tack this pot onto there so that it doesn't accidentally fall over. Right, we are going to use a medium base brush. This is a Games Workshop one, and we're going to put some shade onto our brush. I'm going to go straight out of the bottle, and I'm going to just go into this area here with this shade, and I'm going to do that on all of the sections along this little arc. So I'm going to paint that up, and then I will be back. Okay, so that's the wash painted on and dried. So we've got a little bit more of a contrast between these two plates. However, I want even more contrast, so I'm actually going to go in and do another layer of Nuln Oil. So let's do that exactly the same as last time. We are literally just going to paint in between these little sections here, just to deepen that black. Now you could just paint in with black if you wanted to, but then you tend to lose the mottled effect that we've got to give it that sort of dirty metal look. So I prefer to go in with the Nuln Oil rather than actually black paint. So I'm going to continue this, and then I will be back when it's done. Okay, so that's the second coat done, and you can see it's looking a lot better now. We've got that nice contrast, and it really helps make that metal pop. Now, one last thing I'm going to do with the metal is on these little edges here where we've got the wash, I'm just going to go in with a little dry brush of silver just on the edge where that wash meets the edge, and that will just sharpen up the little metal edges just on this section here. So we'll do that all the way round, and we'll be back for the next colour. Okay, so that's all the silver work done on this model. We're now going to add a little bit more colour to it. I'm going to start off adding some gold because my army has a little bit of gold within it. Now I find the best place to put this gold is on the legs here. There's one little panel on the middle. So I'm going to use this colour, which is Shining Gold. This is an old Games Workshop colour, but it matches my army. But effectively you can use any gold that you like. So I've got some gold in my wet palettes just here. I'm going to use the base brush once again, and I'm literally going to paint this gold onto the top of this panel just here. So nothing too special, just one base coat. You'll probably find one will be enough, but if not, we can just go over with 2 if we need to. So I'm just going to run over these, and then I will be back. Okay, so that's the gold done. I did actually have to do 2 coats, but that gold is really breaking up the silver colour very nicely indeed. Now, this is quite solid at the moment, so I just want to make that a little bit more toned down to match the model. We don't want that too shiny. So what I'm going to do is go over the gold with the Nuln Oil. So just basically 1 coat of Nuln Oil just over the top of this gold, and that will just dull it down a bit and make it match the rest of the model. So I shall do that, and we'll be back for the next stage. Okay, so that's the wash on the gold dried. So we've done the metal colours. We're now going to move on to the weapon and the glow effects. I'm going to start off with Warpstone Glow Green. What we're going to do is take some of that paint and we're going to paint in these 3 little bars in the middle of the gun. This is like the energy weapon, I suppose you could call it. So we're just going to get our base coat and we are going to go in and we're going to paint a solid colour right the way over those 3 vents. You can paint straight over there so you don't have to worry about leaving anything in the recesses. We're going to just have that whole section green. I need to do that obviously on all 4 sides. So I will continue with that and we'll be back with the next stage. Okay, so that's done. I actually did 2 coats of paint. We're now going to bring in our dry brushing material because we're going to dry brush the same colour. This is the starting of the glow effects. So I've got a smaller dry brush here. This is just a standard dry brush. So put some of that green paint that we just used onto your dry brush it off, and then we're going to go around where the actual barrel of green is and we're going to just dry brush around it. Now you can dry brush as little as much as you like depending on the glow effects that you wish to get. I'm going to go for a sort of a medium one, I think. So I'm just going to go over the gun barrel itself, just build up the green, and I'm also going to do it onto these sections here because in my mind the gun's coming out and these 2 sort of beams are coming in here to make one big beam. So that's how I sort of imagine it. So I'm going to go around, not all 3 circles, I'm only going to go around this one circle here, the big one, just with this green, just to give a glow effect. I'm also going to go onto the end of the gun just here as well. So I'm just going to build up the colours in those 3 areas with this dry brushing, and then I will be back and we'll go to the next stage. Okay, so that is done. So now we're going to get this colour here. Now I'm going to be using Scorpion Green. You can use any light coloured green. This is just the green which matches my army. So I'm going to put some of this onto my wet palette and we're going to go to the next stage. Okay, so I've got that colour on my wet palette. I'm just going to get my medium base brush and I'm going to paint the 3 bars going in this gun section. But the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to do a sort of stipple effect. Basically I want a line going down the middle of this barrel, but I don't want it to be an exact perfect line. I want it to be a bit uneven, let's say. So I'm just going to use this sort of dabbing motion almost on the 3 bars. So I'm going to do that all the way round and then I'll be back. Okay, so that is done. I actually did 2 coats of paint just to build up the nice coloration there. Now if you wanted to, you could add white to that green and go a little bit lighter. However, I'm not going to because that's how I have my green in my Necron army. Right, we are now on the last stage of painting this and it's back to dry brushing. So we're going to use that light Scorpion Green colour. We're going to use just a standard dry brush and we're going to get some of that paint onto our dry brush. And effectively we are going to re-dry brush all of the green bits that we've previously dry brushed. Now we can go straight over those 3 bars if we want to. We're going to build up this lighter green around that area just to give it an extra glow. So let's just do that on camera because like I said this is the last stage. So just going to build up that green around the energy sections. Best to have not too much and add several coats rather than just blobbing it on everywhere. So that is just about right in that area. Let's go over these side bits. Now I'm going to go to the front. Just on the front section like so. And then just on the little end pieces just here again. I'm just going to go in a circular motion. I'm going from the inside outwards, leaving some of that first dry brush colour so that you get a differentiation between the different greens. like that. There you go. Perfect. I am really happy with that. I think it looks awesome considering that is made of MDF and cardboard. So I really hope you liked the tutorial. I hope you found it was useful. And if you did enjoy this video, please consider subscribing. Hit my icon at the end of the video so you can keep up to date with the wonders of Warhammer 40k. Beam me up.